to Assemblies with Naomi. That's me, I'm Naomi. And this is our assembly. I do hope you are doing really well, whatever your week has looked like, whether it's been sunny, rainy, windy, snowy, whatever it's been. I hope you are having a good week. Now, why am I talking about the weather? Well, today, that's what we're going to be talking about. The weather. Weather. Weather is one of those funny words, isn't it? You can spell it like the weather outside with the rain and the sun. Or you can spell it whether I would want to go outside or not. Or whether it's going to snow or not. Or whether I like it or not. I'm not very good with my examples today, but I'm sure you know what I mean. You can spell it two words, two ways. They sound the same, but they mean different things. So, I wonder, what is your favourite type of weather? Do you like wind, snow, rain, sunshine? Tornado? What is your favourite type of weather? Let's have 30 seconds on the clock and have a little discussion with the person next to you. Here in England, then we get lots of different types of weather, don't we? But around the world, then they get even more types of weather because we don't really have extreme blizzards or extreme rain. Well, we do get quite a lot of rain, don't we? But we don't often get super huge floods. Okay, I'm talking about huge amounts of water. We don't have earthquakes or tornadoes. But I'm going to show you some weather warning signs. They're going to come up on the screen and I'm going to give you 3 minutes, okay? And I want you to see how many of these weather signs can you get right. Can you have a think about what is that weather sign trying to tell me? Okay, 3 minutes, off we go.
Hold on there, Twitchy. Still practice. Wing it.
There are so many different types of weather, isn't there? There is snow, ice, danger, sun, super hot, super cold, lightning, tornado, wind and flooding. Well done if you got them all right. Some of them are a little tricky, aren't they? Well, today in our Bible story, then we meet somebody who had a bit of a weather thing going on. They were going to have some pretty extreme weather. Well, today we're going to meet some people in the Bible and they had quite a severe weather warning coming their way. But sadly, they didn't do anything about it. Only one guy did. Do you remember why Adam and Eve had to leave the garden that they had been living in? God drove them out of the garden because they had disobeyed him. Adam and Eve were now separated from God. They began finding it harder to get on with each other. Making things grow became really difficult. Raising children was hard. And now their bodies began to grow older, and they knew that one day they would die. From then on, things just got worse and worse. More and more people chose to disobey God and do what they wanted instead. They chose to argue and fight, tell lies and steal. It seemed like no one cared about anybody else anymore. No one cared about God and about what he had to say. There was one man and his family, however, and they were different. Noah trusted God and tried really hard to follow his way. One day, God came to Noah and said, "I am sorry that I made all these people. I will not let them go on hurting each other and spoiling my world forever. I am going to send a huge flood to wipe them off the face of the earth. And then I will start over again with you and your family." God told Noah to build a big boat so that he and his family would be safe when the flood came. So Noah started to build the boat on a beautiful sunny day when there were no clouds in the sky and no sign of rain anywhere. "What are you building a boat for here?" someone in the desert asked. "We're in the middle of the desert." Noah told them that there was going to be a great flood and that they would need the boat to keep them safe when the flood came. But the people just laughed. For 120 years, Noah went on building the boat, even though most days were sunny and warm and there was no sign of rain anywhere. Noah kept building. Again, the people around Noah just laughed at Noah. He pleaded with them to get on the boat where they would be safe, but again, they would not listen. Finally, when Noah and his family and all the animals were on board, God shut the door. And then the weather began to change. First, the sun began to disappear behind the clouds. Then it began to rain. Then the sun disappeared, the clouds grew darker, and the rain got heavier. For the whole day, it kept on raining. The water in the rivers overflowed the banks, and the ground for miles around was flooded. Still, it kept raining, and the flood grew deeper. Soon, the water reached the top of the houses. Then it covered the trees for 40 whole days. That's longer than a month. It kept on raining. And eventually, the waters covered the mountains. The only living creatures left in the world were Noah, his family, and all the animals on board the ark. Then, at last, the sun began to peep out from behind the clouds. The rain was lighter now. Finally, it stopped altogether. Then the clouds disappeared, the sun shone brightly, and the water began to go down. Eventually, Noah could see the tops of the mountains again, then the tops of the trees, and at last the ark came to rest on dry ground. Noah and his family stepped out and looked up into the sky. And there in the sky, between the clouds, was a beautiful rainbow. "I will never again flood the earth like this," God said. "And I will put the rainbow in the sky to remind you of this. Every time you see it, remember that I have promised you today. For as long as the earth remains, I will take care of it and make sure that human beings have everything they need to live on it." It's a promise that God has been keeping for thousands and thousands of years. Well, let's take a look at this video and see the story for ourselves.
God's story, Noah. So part of God's story is about Noah, and it begins like this. First, let's start at the beginning. God created the world to be the most perfect home, with mountains as playgrounds and oceans as swimming pools. Then God made people to be like Him and to live in it. And He wanted us to play with animals and explore jungles and be close to Him forever. It was perfect. But instead, people ran away from God. They hurt each other. They ruined the perfect home God had built for them. The Bible says this made God really, really sad. So sad, in fact, that God decided to wash away all the evil and meanness and cruelty in the world by sending a huge flood to destroy everything, to get rid of all the wrong things and the people who kept doing them. But there was one guy who followed God. That's right, Noah. God had a special rescue plan for Noah. He told Noah to build a big boat called an ark to stay in during the flood. It had to be big enough for Noah's wife and kids and at least 2 of every kind of animal on earth. So, pretty big. And Noah had to build it in the middle of dry land, which means his neighbors probably thought he was crazy, or at least a little weird. Kids, sometimes following God looks a little weird. We're okay with that. Anyway, looking weird didn't stop Noah. He knew he needed to be rescued. So he finished the ark and waited for God to bring the animals. And God brought them all right. Just imagine what those neighbors thought when they saw an entire zoo strolling through their yards. When Noah's family and all the animals were inside, God shut the door. Then, the Bible says God opened the bottom of the ocean and the windows of the sky. We don't know what that means exactly, but we do know it was tons of water. It rained like this for 40 days and 40 nights. And the rain wasn't the worst of it. Once the water stopped, it didn't go away. Noah and his family sat cooped up, floating in the ark for over a year, just waiting. And waiting and waiting. Did we mention they waited? Well, when the tops of the mountains finally started to show, Noah sent out a dove to see if there was dry land. There wasn't. A week later, he sent the dove again. The water was going down. A week later, Noah sent out the dove one last time. It didn't come back, which meant it had found a home. Noah and his family could leave the ark. The very first thing Noah did was build an altar to worship God and thank him for his rescue. And God made a covenant with Noah, which is like a very special promise. God promised never to destroy the earth with a flood, even though he knew humans would keep right on doing wrong things that made him sad. God put a rainbow in the sky to remind Noah that he would definitely keep this promise. And just like God rescued Noah, he would one day send his own perfect son, Jesus, to earth. Jesus would take the punishment of all people. Then, God could be close to everyone who wants to follow him. And that's the story of Noah. So, in case you missed it, here's the quick version. God made a perfect home. People ruined it. God was sad. He planned a flood and a rescue. Noah built an ark. Animals came. It rained. Noah waited. Dry land appeared. Noah worshipped God. God made a promise. God sent Jesus to rescue us. And that's a part of God's story.
Christians believe that this story shows that God hates it when people do wrong things, and he will not allow people to keep doing wrong things forever. There's a consequence when we upset him. But it also shows that God has a rescue plan for those who trust him and follow him, just as Noah did. Those who put their trust in him and follow his way need never to be afraid of God's anger. He has promised to keep them safe and with him forever. And the rainbow is there to remind us that God's promises are true. Now, in our story today, God was pretty angry, wasn't he, with all the wrong things that the people had been doing. Have you ever been really angry when someone's done something wrong against you? Now, we have to remember that in this story, God waited 120 years before sending the flood. Noah was building it for 120 years in order to give the people an opportunity that they might change from their ways. God was so patient, wasn't he? Are you patient? Do you give people a second chance when they do something wrong? Well, I think this story is showing us and telling us that we need to be really patient with those around us. Everybody makes mistakes, but ultimately Jesus gives us this gift of forgiveness, doesn't he? He forgives us for all the wrong things that we do. And even though there's still a consequence when we do wrong things, God still forgives us. And I wonder this week, as we're in school or maybe at home, whether we could be really patient and ask God to help us be patient. Just like he was whilst he was waiting for Noah to build the ark and waiting for people to stop doing the wrong thing. Well, there you have it, the story of Noah. And God was so patient, wasn't he? He kept being patient, even though all the people kept doing the wrong thing. Well, I've got a quiz for you. I've got 5 questions, and let's see how well you know the story of Noah. Grab a pen and a paper so you can write the answers down, and we'll give out all the answers at the end, okay? Or maybe a whiteboard or like a pen, anything to write the answers down, okay? Question number 1. How long did it take for Noah to build the ark? Can you remember that number? Can you remember? Okay. What animals went into the ark? That's question number 2. What animals went into the ark? What animals? Question number 3. What were the people doing? What were the people doing? Not Noah, the other people. What were they doing? Question number 4. What was God showing the people who laughed as Noah built the ark? What was God showing the people as Noah built the ark? And lastly, question number 5. What promise did God give us? Question number 5. What promise did God give us? Okay. How well do you know the story of Noah? Well, question number 1, I said it took 120 years for Noah to build the ark. That is a very long time, isn't it? People lived really long in the Bible. They lived for years and years and years. Okay, 120 years it was. What animals went into the ark? All the animals. Every single animal. 2 kinds. A mum and a dad of every single animal. That ark would have been really loud and really smelly, wouldn't it? Okay, well done, you've got 2 out of 2. Question number 3. What were the people doing? What were they doing? Well done if you got this right, but they were disobeying God, weren't they? They weren't doing the right thing. So well done if you wrote down something like that, that they were doing the wrong thing, they were upsetting God, they were disobeying God. Well done if you got that one right. Question number 4. What was God showing the people who laughed as Noah built the ark? What was God showing them? Again, well done if you got this one right. It's a really tricky question. But he was showing them patience, wasn't he? He was giving them a second and a third and a fourth and a 5th chance to do the right thing. God was showing them patience. And lastly, question number 5. What promise did God give us? What was that promise that God gave us? That's right, God would never flood the earth again. And that's why we have that image of a rainbow as that reminder that God will never ever flood the whole earth again. Well done. I do hope you learned something new about Noah. Maybe you didn't know it took 120 years to build the ark. Hope you have a really good week, and let's try and be really patient, just like God was really patient with all the people whilst Noah built the ark. Let's us try and do that as well this week. Well, hope you have a really great week, and I will see you next time with Assemblies with me, Naomi. Bye.